Hi guys, so I wanted to answer a question that a lot of people have been asking recently, which is how to get a job in Mexico City, or Mexico in general, I guess. It's a difficult one for me to answer because obviously I can only tell you about my experiences and the experiences that my friends and my boyfriend have had trying to emigrate to Mexico. I am self-employed. I do freelance work and contract work for companies outside of Mexico, so my situation was totally different. One of the reasons we came to Mexico was actually because my boyfriend got a job here. So yeah, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about his process and about the process of a few of my friends. So he is a coach, and he works for an English-speaking soccer academy here in Mexico, and he found the job on a job website in the UK, and he applied, and he went through the process of like any sort of job application would be in any country. So interviews and obviously references and all that sort of stuff. And then he was given the job offer, and he had to wait for the kind of like visa paperwork to be filed on his boss's end. So he could not enter Mexico and apply for the visa in Mexico. You cannot apply for a temporary residency visa in Mexico. It has to be applied for outside of the country. It doesn't have to be in your home country. It could be in the US, it could be in the UK, it could be anywhere that there's a Mexican embassy. So he waited for this paperwork. It took maybe 4 or 5 months for the paperwork to be processed. So this was the longest part, the part where his boss files the paperwork, and the paperwork then goes in a pile, and you have to wait for it to be processed. And then his boss then received this paper back from the embassy or the immigration office, and he sent that to Luke. Luke then took it to his nearest Mexican embassy or consulate, and he had an interview. He had like some more paperwork to fill out. He had to bring photos, and that was all quite easy. He made an appointment a couple of days before he went, and then he was able to immediately arrive into Mexico as soon as that was all stamped into his passport. He was given the same sort of piece of paper that you get when you enter as a tourist, and he had to bring that form to the immigration office here in Mexico City within 30 days of arriving in the country. Once he went to the immigration office, he was given he had to bring more pictures, there was more paperwork to fill out, and he was given like a temporary card that he would have to have with him until his actual temporary residency card arrived. So for the card to arrive, the proper card to arrive, it took maybe another month. So from start to finish of accepting the job to being able to live fully without any kind of issues in Mexico, it probably took about 6 months. I'm sure it can probably be rushed. I'm not sure exactly at what point his boss submitted that paperwork. It's all for grabs. So that's how he got his job. I have friends who teach here. Some teach at international schools, and some teach at like small language schools, which are private companies. So I'll talk about first the international schools. These are all either British schools or American schools. So yeah, I'm not up on exactly like what the curriculum and all that sort of stuff is, but if you want to apply for a job at those schools, of which there are probably like more than 10 where everything is in English, and obviously they want native English teachers, you have to apply directly to the school, look up international schools in whatever city that you want to live in, and then send applications out to those individually. You have to be obviously a certified teacher. In my experience, and what I think is they take candidates who are from the country that school represents. That's not always entirely true. Obviously, there are American teachers at British schools, and there are British teachers at American schools. There are Australian teachers here. There are people from New Zealand. There are people from South Africa. And so and obviously English doesn't have to be your first language, but if you need to speak English and be a certified teacher. So you'd send all that stuff. The pay for a teacher here in Mexico at one of those schools is very good. It's generally about the same, if not more, than what you would receive as a teacher in your home country, pretty much. Then there are the private, like, kind of after-school academies, or the ones that go to, like, businesses. All you really need is, like, a TEFL. I always recommend people use my TEFL. That's one I took before I went to Korea. It's really easy, like, to use the website. The people that run it are incredible. They also give quite a bit of money for each purchase to different, like, educational charities around the world, which is really cool in my book. So those schools don't pay as much, obviously. They pay hourly. They pay usually about $4 to $5 an hour, which is still a good enough wage to live well in Mexico. So it's totally up to you, obviously, if you don't have experience as a teacher or you're not a qualified teacher. The TEFL and the private academies are not as cushy a job, or not as, you'll be traveling around cities to different businesses or to different locations to where the students are, but it's a viable option. And if you want to come to live in Mexico and you're not really skilled in something that you can find a job in here, it's a good option to at least get you started and get you into Mexico. Obviously, if you're, like, very experienced in a certain sector like IT or marketing or engineering or something, that is a totally different story. But those jobs will definitely require you to speak Spanish, at least intermediately. And you would apply for and find those jobs in the same sort of places that you would probably apply for and find them in your own countries. Monster.com and Indeed, yeah, I mean, I'll link a few below that I know friends have used, so you can check those out. But obviously those are much harder to get because you're competing with people who are skilled, who are already in Mexico. What I really recommend is coming to Mexico and doing some exploring, see where you want to live, see what sort of cities or parts of the country that you love the most, and see what sort of industries are there, what sort of jobs that you'd be able to get in those areas, and then you can kind of have a better idea of, like, what's possible for you. I mean, if you wanted to live in Cancun or Playa del Carmen or Tulum, like, there's a lot of options for property management or doing some sort of, like, real estate work there. I know there's a lot of retirees or expats that live around those areas that have obviously found success in finding work. There's the tourism industry. I'm sure they're always looking for bilingual people who can work in the tourism sector. I hope this is helpful for you guys. I know it's not, like, super informative. Obviously, I can only give you information that I know to be true, and I know to be, like, ways for people that, like, I know have gotten jobs. So if you have any other advice, if you've, like, lived in Mexico or if you've had a job before, like, totally let us know in the comments so other people can gain your knowledge. And yeah, see you guys soon. Bye.